Collaboration and lead. That was like a really great like description. My description is going to ramble for about a minute.
Do you have HDMI?
I got it right there. No. Hello, everybody. Again, did I say hello yet? Hello. My name is John Brown. This is Google Slides. I've been using it so far the last couple of weeks. It's been really great. I suggest everybody give it a try. I and Chris Adams met at a Creative Code meeting less than a year ago, and I was really inspired by a lot of the stuff Chris Adams has done in the past and his views. And so together we brainstormed and came up with this idea for the Cards Project, which is the idea of a community project that brings together creative coders in the community together to make unique one-off prints and a whole slew of it. Put them together, package them up, and sort of use them as trading cards for the community. So I could have somebody's trading card that has a unique piece of artwork on one side, in the back a description about the artwork, and it's hand numbered and hand signed, maybe hand signed. It's definitely hand numbered. Some people chose to sign them on the back. And so this is what it looks like. So every artist went through and put the number on the up in the corner. It's been a really great project. And last time I came and talked at a PDX Creative Coder group, it was about Series 1. So where were we then? Series 1 was amazing. We had 10 artists. Each one did 150 prints each. That's 1,500 completely unique pieces of artwork. We sold out basically that same day when we presented to everybody. And it was a really great experiment, really great success. And we immediately went off to do Series 2. But before we did that, I just want to call out a couple people. One of the things that we really wanted to do was inspire people to make art and to either continue that idea through and use it in different ways and expand the idea, or just be super inspired to just go off and do more art. This is Lucas's print Blom, and he ended up taking all of them, and this is one of them. He ended up taking all of them and turning them into one-off prints that you could buy. This is a 12 by 12. Really amazing, and I suggest you check it out. These are this stored at Lucas T. Swick. He's got a couple here, and he'll be showing them off during the show and tell. But it's really great to see somebody like carry that idea through and like use it in different contexts, as well as Mike Crichton, who did Shard Party, and so he did these really amazing pieces for Series 1, and then ended up taking. I think he said it took like an hour for each one of these to render, and then he ended up taking those like visuals and ended up going over them with oil paintings. So he had this really amazing series after his presentation, or after he did the Cards Project, with these. It's the same idea, but done in a completely different medium. They're gorgeous. So Mike Crichton really carried that spirit through. So where are we right now? That's a little bit of the past.
Mike is selling those too.
Are they still available?
I think there's some on his website.
Okay, so this is Mike Crichton, MikeCrichton.com, I believe it is. Check it out. Apparently some are still available. It's really great. So where are we? Second story. Well, where are we with the Cards Project? So we did Series 2. And we sort of tried a couple things that were new and different. We didn't want to do the same thing over again. With 11 artists, 10 cards, but the actual packaging also has a unique print on it by one of the artists from the first series, Megan. 250 prints instead of 150. Sorry, everybody that did that. 2,750 unique pieces. It's a lot of work. I hope everybody had a really good time with it. Here's how they turned out. We had some really cool stuff, like Josh ended up doing handwritten ones off of generative text, which was really amazing. We had people who had never done code art before. A couple of them come in, were brand new to the process, did great work. You'll hear from both of them as well. These are them all laid out on a table. Actually, this is only half of them laid on a table, but these are the different artists. Really great to see them all together. We did fancy packaging. I've got some in my pocket. We did lenticulars, so every pack has a little window through it, and you can actually see Michael Deal, who cannot be here unfortunately, did these really amazing generative pieces. So everyone is different. If anybody can see this on YouTube, I don't know. So it's a long way away. You're probably also looking at the screen. Oh yeah, so there we go. For anybody on YouTube, this is what they look like. we really like wanted to try a bunch of new stuff, and the end result, Chris Adams and we think is really great. And there's Megan right there. She just walked in. So hi, Megan. There are a couple artists who aren't going to be talking tonight. Just wanted to go through them really quickly. Again, to entice you to want to look at them, and if you're on YouTube, to entice you to want to go to the website later. This is Mike's. He's now in San Francisco, so he's no longer a PDX creative coder. It's a big loss for our community, but I wish him well. He did haiku. These are all these were like drawn on a Wacom tablet, and then he digitally synthesized them to make these really amazing like watercolor feels. They look amazing in person. Kevin Lee did these pieces, which I think you have to see a couple of them in series to really like understand what's happening here, which is amazing. I love the joy that these brought. And Adam, who is here tonight, did these great pieces. He's the only artist that has put text on the front of the card, which I think is pretty great. And these are all lat long, and then like a bunch of environmental variables in these different pieces. These are really amazing too. And John did something really cool where he actually outsourced a lot of it to a bunch of friends of his. So there was like 11 plus artists to this, where they were all writing different scripts to generate art, and then sort of like stacking them together and layering them on top of each other, and getting these really weird pieces, and just like never knowing what was going to happen or like where anything is coming from. Again, like this whole series of this is just amazing. And one of the cool things about the cards project is it really like I hope encourages you to like go look at other people's cards where you're in a group, because you can see the differences and the nuances and whether they're subtle or just like insane between the different artists. So these are available tonight. They're $12 a pack. If anybody wants to get some, talk to John Brown. That's me, or Chris Adams. Stand up. That's Chris Adams. We have Square and Forgot Cash. Just at $12, just a weird number. So if anybody has exact change, come to us first, so that way we can make change for other people later. And again, if you're at home on YouTube, I don't know if you see me pointing at you, but you can go to thecardsproject.com, and there may still be some available there. 250, and then they're gone, which is a really cool thing. Where are we going with this project? I don't know yet, but chat with me or Chris tonight if you're interested in joining along for the ride in the future. But we don't exactly know where that's going to go. Thank you very much, and I'm going to turn it over to 6 of the artists that all going to give you presentations on their amazing artwork. So thank you to all the artists, really, truly. Thank you to Chris, and thank you to the Second Story, and thank you to the organizers and everything. So thank you.
So I think we made like a list of the people that are bound to come. So I'm just coming for like that. Yeah. So we're going to start with Chris R, and then like me and Violet Pena, and then Reed, and then Josh. So is Chris? Are you ready? Yeah. Sweet. Woo! HDMI?
Yeah.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you.
All right, go easy on the guy going first. Okay. Hi, everyone. I think I've met many of you before, but if I haven't, my name is Chris Arth. I'm currently a senior designer at Parliament, which is a creative agency here in town. Lucas works there. I'm excited to have an opportunity to share a little bit about my contribution to the Cards Project tonight. First, I'd like to share a little bit about my inspiration for this project. And it's this guy. This is my son, Owen. He's over there, the baby up past his bedtime. He was born in April of last year, and he was just a few months old when John and Chris invited me to participate. And around that time, as I'm sure you can imagine, our house was starting to feel like it was being taken over by baby toys. So a few of them caught my eye. Owen really loved these wooden chew toys made by a German company called Haba. And I loved the simple design of them. They're basically just geometric shapes cut out of wood and painted with bright colors. And so I decided to try and use these as inspiration, and set out to try and see if I could create something that would use similar shapes and colors to create layouts that were visually interesting, regardless of one's age. About a year ago, I had completed a really great course on Skillshare called Programming Graphics Introduction to Generative Art. The course is taught by Joshua Davis, someone I'm sure many of you have heard of before. The course is about 6.5 hours worth of material, so it's pretty decent. And in it, Joshua introduced the Hype framework, which is a really great processing framework that he helped create. And I found that it does a lot of the heavy lifting for you, and it makes it really easy to create both static and animated generative art, especially when using SVG files. So for me, it felt like a great fit for this project, and that's what I decided to use. So there's two main Hype classes that I use for this project, and you'll see them here in my code. The first is called HDrawablePool, and the second one HColorPool. So I don't know if you can even read this, but I'm just going to run briefly through my code here. So first, I'm just initiating the Hype framework. I set the size and background color of my canvas, and using HColorPool, I provided a list of the hex values that I wanted to use for my SVG elements. Next, I chose a quantity of SVGs that I wanted to draw on the canvas, and I listed each of their names. So each of these SVGs were created in Illustrator, and then they're just simple black and white SVGs, and I saved them into the processing's build data folder beforehand. A side note, I didn't end up using this for my final code, but a nice feature of Hype is it allows you to give weight to certain colors in SVG assets. So if you want them to show up more frequently, you just kind of add the number next to them. So pretty easy. So after listing the SVG assets that I wanted to use, I set the sizing to be random within a specific range, and randomized both the rotation and the location on the canvas for each element. And then lastly, I just randomized the color fill colors from the list of the hex values earlier, and I had processing draw the shapes to the canvas and then save out the finished composition as a vector-based PDF. So all in all, just under 90 lines of code. And just here's a few samples of the finished pieces. So I just wanted to wrap up with a few key takeaways that I got from this project. First, I think it's really important to get to the visuals as soon as possible, especially for someone like myself who comes from a visual design background rather than a coding background. It's really easy for me to get bogged down and even a little intimidated or discouraged by the code. So by leveraging the Hype framework, I was able to have the framework do a lot of the heavy lifting for me, and was able to create visuals pretty quickly, and then make some tweaks and see them reflected almost immediately. So that allowed me to better wrap my head around things and make progress much quicker. Second, I think it's helpful to remember to keep things simple. I think it's possible to create something pretty visually interesting with just a handful of assets. And it's tempting to add like additional layers of complexity, especially when we have like such powerful tools and frameworks at our disposal. But at a certain point, I feel that they can start to be detrimental to the artwork. And then lastly, it's meant to be fun. I think the projects that I end up learning the most from are the ones that I really enjoyed working on. If it ends up becoming stressful or feeling like a chore, it's probably not going to be a project where I walk away from it feeling like I really learned some great new skills. So I just encourage everyone to not lose sight of what you're doing in the first place, or why you're doing it in the first place. As far as what's next, I'm planning on releasing a PDF of the entire set of cards once Series 2 is sold out, so buy them. If anyone's interested, feel free to download them. I'll have them on my website. And then personally, I'm looking to create some posters and prints just to hang in my house, probably in Owen's room. And then finally, I just want to say thank you to John Brown and Chris Adams for inviting me to participate. They put a ton of time and effort into this project and their own dollars. And I'm really appreciative of the chance to share my work alongside some really talented folks. And I want to say thanks to my wife and my son who are here. You can hear him. For letting me spend quite a few nights and weekends working on this project. So thank you.
I'm going to talk about my card. So first I need to find a presentation. You? That wasn't really good. Okay, my take on the cards were like called spiral number 4. What was it? So it's like these cards, like some examples. So I was inspired by like spirograms. You know, like this, like kids, kids do like like this stuff. I had exactly the same face as the kid when I was like programming my stuff. It's like, Arr! It's the idea is like you have like a point turning around another point and like you're drawing that. So that's the creating kind of math. I don't know. I found this like I found this I found this stuff online, but I kind of like changed the math so it would look like instead of like being one shape, it would be like a bit more interesting. And so the magic is like you can change the parameters of how fast like the stuff are turning, and it creates like totally like different shapes. So that's why I was like showing the previous cards. So if you look on the edges of the card, you have like these pointy borders, which actually are like also dynamic, sorry. Um, and they basically represent, it's like another representation of the parameters that are generating the stuff inside the shape. So like like on one edge you see like you have like a kind of like really like slow triangles, and like higher is like more like pointy. It's like because like one of the frequency of the rotation was like really high and the other was like kind of slow, as opposed to like this one where like both are kind of like more intense, and it's you see like all the points like less defined. Um, and so it was like, yeah, I think I put like quite a bit of code just to make like this border that just like worked the way I wanted. So it was just a detail. And also like something I wanted to point out, because it was kind of like a realization for me, was so you see like this shape like in the middle. When I started, it was more like a big canvas full of like this what's like inside the shape. And I was talking with like a few friends, and we like kind of come up with like some projects where like we're like, oh, we should mask what we're generating so it looks better. And so like now looking at that, it feels like actually having like a well-defined shape, like kind of like it gives like more shape to the composition. It looks like more interesting, in my opinion. So why did I did that? So I wanted to share that. It's something I put in my portfolio like 4 years ago. It was one of my first stab at like creative coding. It was like already like inspired by like spirograms, but my view on it is like, so first it was not really doing what I wanted it to do, and you can see like the color. It's hard to see, but like the colors are like not well chosen. Like it's like like weird red and green, and I wasn't even able to like crop the stuff properly, so like everything would have the same size. So I was like, I had this opportunity to take part in like a really cool project, and like, what should I talk about? What should I try? And I was like, it would be interesting to see like oh, like what I've learned in my like 3 years of creative coding. Like, did I learn something like working with designers? I hope so. um, so how I'm going to show show you like a few demos of like the progress I went through. So first of all, it was like a lot of open frameworks. So I think I have like my first try. I mean, not exactly my first try, but something I started with was like this thing where like I could like like move around with my mouse, and it was like doing like the spirogram stuff. And I had like a bunch of like key shortcuts where it would change slowly like the frequency of the stuff, and so it would create like different shapes. I don't know if it's like super obvious, but when I'm pressing the key, it's like changing some of the values. And if I just like leave it, it's like going to do like that stuff. And there's probably like some blur as well to make it like look more cool. but I wasn't super happy with like I'm like it still like kind of like looks a bit off. So yeah. Talking with like another like designer friend, programmer friend, sorry, he was like, oh, you should try to do some web, and I tried. I'm not. I have too many Chromes. So not sorry. Um, I'm not like I'm not a web designer, so I was just like I have no idea what I'm doing. Um, but so it's like kind of the same idea where like yeah, that's silly. Oh yes. Sorry. Um, so my idea with like web was like it's easier to like build an interface and it's easier to like try to tweak the parameters. So it was like another way of it works. Um, okay, sorry for that. So it was like an interesting way of being able to just try to tweak tweak the settings. So this one is not moving around and it's just like static. So I was also like trying just to hack the math and like trying other like formula like oh what if in the correct like spirogram formula I'm adding like a tangent of something just to see, and that's what gives like this shape to the parabolic. And so you can just like like change parameters and it's like doing more stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think the thing I love about like spirograms is like how by just slightly changing some parameters, you move from like one shape to something that's like totally different. Um, okay, so oops, not this one. Yeah. Um, I think there's like a curse on like you're trying to do demos. Um, okay, so I'm not going to do that. Yeah, come back. And so now, I'm not sure like how much time I have, but I can show you like some like final. Uh, so this one, yeah, was like the final result of like the thing being rendered that I used for my cards. So like another coworker was like, oh, like if your shape like was slowing moving, that would be like more interesting. That's good. That's a good advice. And so like if you can press a key and it's like totally like changing the it's like randomizing the parameters and it takes a screenshot or like a capture. So like here you can see like that's like a super high frequency and that's why it's like hard to see. And like you should leave it running for a while to it's like looking really cool. And anyway, and I wanted to show like a second like another version that I kind of like yeah. So this one I just like removed the masking and it's tracking my mouse. And so it's interesting because it can become like a drawing application, and that's something I was like interested in exploring. Where like the things are kind of like the parameters are like changing without really like your control, but it's kind of like up to you to learn how to use that and play with it, and then you can like tweak a few stuff and like start afresh. And I was just like thinking it was interesting to explore this like, kind of like relationship of like making like a new drawing tool that you need to learn how to use and that can make stuff that and I think it's like an interesting constraint. So I think I wanted to show some code, but I'm running a bit out of time. So if you want to see some code, just come to me afterward. And so what's next? One of the idea I had when I was building that stuff would be like when I was like prototyping, every time I liked something, I had like a shortcut. I would press like the space bar and it would take a screenshot of what was going on screen. Something that would be like really cool would be to automate that process more further and have a way of like dumping like all the settings that are relevant to what's on screen. and make sure that the current code is committed somewhere on GitHub, and save both like the latest like commit ID or whatever it's called on GitHub and the settings, so that at any time, at any point in time, you could like rerun what you did, whatever like changes you made to the code, because you would have like exactly like proper like snapshot of what was going on. And so I mean that's, I'm saying that now not because of my project, but because it's like relevant to anyone who's like hacking code to do like creative coding stuff. It's you can always say like, oh, the effect was like so cool, but I don't know how I did it, and I changed my code, it doesn't work. So that would be really cool to do. Yeah, I was like hinting at like this like drawing tool. That would be, I think it's like something interesting to explore. Yeah. So do you have any questions?
I was wondering for the cards, how long will you typically wait for the final product, because it takes a certain amount of time for that to build up. How long would you usually wait?
I think I took like it was like running like 1 minute. I hard coded the stuff to like automatically refresh every 1 minute, but then I let it running for like 24 hours or 48 hours, and I had like a lot of images to go through to pick like the one I liked.
Yeah.
That was like pretty like cumbersome. So Violet, if you're like ready to show your stuff, you can come and get ready. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. And she needs internet like cable. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. I got on the Wi-Fi.
Okay,
earlier.
perfect.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay. All right. Is that? Okay, that's better. Okay, hi everyone. I'm gonna talk about my card series, which I call the Romo. Um, anyway, so when I was starting on this project, the first thing I was thinking about is like, what's my data source gonna be? Because I want it to be something interesting. I want it to be something I like, and I want it to be something I can turn into 250 of something else. So like, what is there 250 of? And I was like, well, languages. There's so many languages, and they're really cool. So I was looking for comparative data about different features of languages, and I eventually ended up on the Walls database, which I'm plugging because I just can't recommend it enough. It's just an online database full of tons and tons of information about like over 6,000 languages worldwide, and it's use it for stuff because it's great. And so I pared down that 6,000 languages to about 270 that I felt had enough information to use in a cool, flexible way for this project. And so this is a little bit of my color-coded spreadsheet. It was great. Anyway, and then I was like, well, I've got data. What am I actually going to do with it? And so at first I was just going to do something very simple, stuff with colors and fields of colors and gradients. And then at some point I switched direction and I'm like, well, batik is really cool though too. And so batik is this wax resist dyeing technique from Southeast Asia. And so I decided to take my visual cues from Indonesian batiks from Java. And so anyway, here's some batiks in situ being worn by an Indonesian music ensemble, just to give you an idea about a little what they look like in real life. And anyway, though, so one thing that really draws me to batik is that it's all these patterns like next to each other and nested in each other. And patterns are also a huge part of language and programming, and then batiks are woven on cloth, which is a pattern too. And so I was really on the patterns pattern. And then I was like, well, in Javanese music, there's a concept of nesting patterns, basically that's called eromo, which refers to the density of a piece. And so a lot of the time a piece will slow down, but then the instruments will start playing more complex parts. So it's, you dive into one pattern and it's full of smaller patterns, which to me is a lot like the other patterns in these pieces. So it's like, okay, great, this is what I'm going to go for. And so I started surveying all these batiks and breaking apart their patterns, and I was like sampling them to make color palettes and tracing patterns and then turning them into SVGs, and that's like a teeny portion of the ones that I made. So I was in Illustrator for like hours and hours learning how to make that happen, and then once I had those building blocks, I took to just JavaScript and HTML5 canvas to generate the actual artworks. And so the crux of the whole project was really two files. And so one was a JSON representation of the walls database, and then I also made a mapping file of linguistic characteristics, and then saying what I wanted those to be represented as in the actual cards. And so then after a lot of trial and error, I ended up with a visual representation of 250 different languages. And so there's elements of randomness, but there's also, these properties also directly correspond to like, subject, verb order, and how many genders a language has, and whether it has a smaller or larger than average consonant count. And anyway, so this was a really, really fun project. It was the first really deep dive I got to do into Canvas. I thought the API was great. Actually, I had a lot of fun with it. And I also got to do, again, more with Illustrator than I've ever done before, making dozens of tileable SVGs. And it was really cool to have my code translated into these visuals. I mean, that said, next time I'm going to try some time management, because there were a lot of nice to haves that I did not manage to get to. Like some of the stuff that I thought would be really simple, I started doing it, and it was incredibly difficult, so I couldn't do it. And then also going into it, though, I realized I would have a lot to learn with Illustrator, so I stuck to more familiar stuff on the programming side of things. So next time I want to be a little more adventurous in that regard, maybe try processing, which seems to have a big following. Anyway, so that's where I'm going right now. My code is up on GitHub if you want to look at it, or whatever, try cracking some of my nice to haves. Anyway, so thanks all of you for letting me participate in this and then talk about it. Yeah, thanks.
And when you guys, buy your deck of cards, Violet wrote the language of each
card
on the back, handwrote it on the back of every single card.
Yeah, so then look it up if you want, because some of them are really common, and some of them, the vast majority, I had never heard of them before, which is also really cool. I don't know. Okay.
Did you ever put a list of the stuff you made like somewhere, or?
No, I'm thinking of doing that, but I didn't want to do it until I got the go ahead. But it's yeah. WALS. Like, do things with it. Yeah.
Sorry, just a minute. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Reed Bloomquist. My cards project is called Palindrome. It is kind of a combination of a lot of inspiration I had at the time. I had just started using Unity 3D. I had started going through some tutorials Started out with one to build a fractal, just kind of programmatically generate a fractal kind of shape. And ended up taking a workshop with Surya that was focused on Unity and really got into trail renderers. And I really just kind of really liked the whole trail rendering aspect, and kind of took it and ran with it. I don't know if any of you ever did like Jackson Pollock marble art in the playground when you were a kid or anything like that. It was kind of like a similar idea. So obviously the first thing when you make something nice and organized and structured, your first instinct, you want to blow it up. So that's kind of what I did. I started playing with the physics engine in Unity and kind of taking the structure and letting gravity play with it, and applying forces as I saw fit. And it started turning into a real exercise in like relinquishing control to the computer to generate this stuff. I kind of had a whole vision of what I wanted exactly, and first like maybe week working on it, I just threw it out the window and kind of gave up control. So I went from kind of like a flat color on my cubes, started adding white trails just to see how it would break up the composition a little bit. And then I kind of decided that they kept falling forever and it wasn't that interesting. So as I progressed, I started adding colliders on a ground plane for them to hit and kind of disperse. So they would kind of all be concentrated and fall and disperse. And a really awesome tool I picked up in Surya's workshop was a shader and a script that let you not only mirror one side of what you're working with in Unity, but also adjust your blend mode on your shader. So once I had my trails and I started liking things, it took off into a direction that was too chaotic and just too much to try and look at. So by kind of cutting what you're looking at in half and replicating it, it seemed to me like it became a lot more of a composition that you'd want to look at. And going through, I was able to kind of add like shape. I ended up adding kind of a cone on my ground collider so that it would kind of direct my paths in a way I wanted and kind of make the shapes I wanted. And it kind of ended up in some pretty cool places. And even the material, every single piece is only using one image as a texture for all the trails and the ground plane. And that was also made with the help of the computer. I would take an image I thought had a cool palette, use kind of nearest neighbor resampling, make it really small, blow it up, make it really pixelated, use some autofill to get color juxtaposition, and then turn that into a texture. And it ended up with some pretty interesting results as I was able to go through some of the different blend modes and just kind of playing with my palettes, and having my control was pretty much just here's an image, now it's a texture, here you go, and let it run. And even down to like what object the camera follows was randomized. So it was a really fun exercise, and I had a really great time. And I think my favorite part was having all these images that a computer made and sitting there and critiquing my computer and kind of picking out what I thought was compelling. So yeah, thank you. If you want to check out Surya's repo, he's Momo the Monster on GitHub, and there's some awesome trail rendering tools for Unity. And my work is also up on my GitHub repository under Reed Bloomquist. Thank you.
Hey, can I use your laptop? I just need a web browser. Do you need to log into something or? No, I just need a web browser. Let's try that. Oops, it's caps lock. Yeah. Who's Tilda on here? Whoa. What do you want to
What
say?
kind of keyboard is this?
It's a French. It's French.
Okay, shiny.000.
Shiny.
This puts a wrench in my plans. Oh, sorry, shiny dot. I'm just gonna ask you where key is, and you can tell me. I like to think of this as performance art. Right, dot.
Dot.
O slash tilde.
Yeah, this is stuff.
Whoa, how did you do that? Josh, oh. Oh, okay, M. Where is M?
Hmm?
This is so embarrassing. M.
M?
Yeah. Slash. Robosamo. ROBO.
Robo.
Oh, that's kind of where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. SAM.
M.
Oh.
Have you made it?
Okay, I'm just gonna like leave it with that. Cool. So I'm Josh, and thanks to everyone who helped make the cards project possible. This was definitely really fun to work on. I had done a project over the summer, which was an homage to Jean-Michel Basquiat and Al Diaz's Samo graffiti. Some of the earliest work from Basquiat was this partner project with Al Diaz, where they did these very poetic graffitis around New York City. So I found a paper that included pictures of all the graffitis that they did, and took the text out of it and did some interesting things with the text, and then made this, which regenerates new Samo graffitis, but in this kind of more electronic style. And it's very different. Someone commented to me that this is more like reading a book about the graffiti than it is like actually looking at the graffiti itself, because you start to see the context of different statements next to each other. So anyway, when the cards project came up, I knew I wanted to use this as a basis for it. But like the first few days that I thought about it, I tried to come up with a design for a card that I could kind of have these statements on. And everything I came up with, like I really didn't like. I'd spent probably a couple days in Photoshop just tinkering around, like trying to come up with the design. Um, and then it crossed my mind that this was originally graffiti. So what if I just like hand wrote all of them? That'd probably be easier and take less time than making 250 images in Photoshop and then having all those printed. So it was kind of cheating. Well, it was cheating, but they went along with it. So we printed basically a blank card, which used this template I found online, which was an homage to art done on U.S. Postal Service stickers. And so when everybody else was already finished and was like, "Yay, I'm done with my 250 cards," that's when I got started, because I had to actually write all mine by hand. My plan originally was that I was going to sit down at a table and have this on a screen in front of me and just kind of randomly pick ones to write and then write them down as I went. And that worked for like the first 50, and then I got really bored, and my hands started to hurt. So as time went on, I started to just kind of mix it up and just add random kind of stuff to it. And oh, I should step back and mention something first. So when I started, I actually took all the cards, one series cards, and laid them on the table, and asked the question like, which ones stood out the most? Like, which ones did I see like really popped and really like made me be like, oh wow. And it was Mike's, one that was shown earlier, Mike Crichton's, and Libby's actually were the two that stood out for me as just like really, they just popped. And the thing about Mike's that really stood out to me was that he put a lot of time on his borders, which is something that I didn't think as many people had paid attention to. And I thought that was something that I should think about. But really, I got the idea that one of the things I noticed was that despite what was said, only about half of them are numbered. And of the two sets I looked at, like the artist had not bothered to number or sign like 5 out of 10 of them. So it seemed to me that I love the fact that I'd get ones that were numbered and signed. And I saw people not numbering and signing them. I was like, well, why didn't they do that? I was like, well, wait, can't I just like go further and just like draw on the back? So I started doing things like striking out words, which was a Basquiat thing. I started making drawings. There's a couple of like landscape drawings on the back of my cards. But I basically, Philippe gave me something to hack the format and just started doing weird things. So the deeper you get in my 250, the stranger they get. And by the end, there's very little resemblance to any of this. There's increasing amounts of scribbling and striking out and drawing on the back. And I kept it interesting and fun for myself as I did it. And I think it becomes more personal and more fun as you go deeper in the deck. Now the weird thing is that these were kind of intended to be consumed one at a time. And then John like scanned all of them, which like I don't even know how you had the time to do that, but he sends me this big zip file with like all of them scanned in it. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is a totally different thing when you're looking at all of them together and when you're looking at them individually. Because when you look at all of them together, it's like kind of a comprehensive work that almost kind of reveals my mind state at the time I was working on it. But if you look at them individually, it's just like they all seem like one-offs. So just wrapping on this, so what I kind of took after that is so somehow they printed like 500 of the blank cards for me, I think, in case I screwed up or something. So when I was done, I had all these cards left, and I was like, I should do something with these. And so for a period of 30 days when I was working on a software development project, I wrote a random card every day. And I kept basically a calendar of these cards at my desk. And at the end, I basically had a calendar that kind of represented the Racemos across the whole project, from the high points, the low points, and everything else. And it came out as this really nice piece. I wish I had a picture of it. I showed it to a few people a few weeks ago. But it was a great way to kind of continue it on that I really enjoyed. But anyway, when you see my cards, they look nothing like that. They're all hand scribbled and written. Check out the back. Sometimes I put more time into the back than I did to the front. And just to restate, I really love this concept of hacking the format and just saying like, okay, well, you're given these bounds, you're given these rules for what you can do. How can you sneak between the lines of those rules? How can you deviate? How can you, and do that in a way that you're going to stand out more and that your cards might get more attention. So that's it. Thank you. I guess I should say, are there any questions? I can use the last person's slide. Yeah.
Zach, I guess, did you talk about the rules for generating the text?
No, I didn't. In simplest terms, it is I broke every one of the SAMO statements into 4 parts. There's a prefix, middle, a suffix, and then like a random weird thing that could appear on the end. And it's really just mixing those up. There's no like people been like use Markov chain. I was like, no, I did not like do anything special. It's really that most of it was realizing that there was a structure to all of them. Like when you look at them all together, there was a very consistent structure. And then breaking that structure out and starting to put it back together and see what made sense. But it doesn't all make sense. Oh, and one other cool word I learned other than hacking the format, Nick Montfort, who gave me the idea for this in the first place, called the ones that I wrote myself printer's errors. So I told him I was kind of embarrassed that I'd gone off the rails and I wasn't really doing what I said. He's like, no, those are printer's errors. That's cool. That's totally normal. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's fun. I can just say that from now on. So cool. Thank you.
Already. Yep. So yeah, just to like wrap up that, I also want to thank like John and Chris for like this awesome project. It's really cool to. I mean, it makes me really happy to see all this like really cool projects. And I think it's awesome that you created like these opportunities for people to like show their art. So it really excites me that we can show that to everyone. Okay, so next, Ross is going to talk about Singalong.js. So I think it's some. Can you come? It's some live non-karaoke and different musical instruments in your mobile phone. I think the presentation is going to last like 20 minutes, and then we can have like we'll have a break. So. Do you need to like access it?
Yes, if I could have a browser window in incognito mode, please.
Yes.
All right, well that's happening. Hi everybody, I'm Ross Brackett. Let's see. There is a interactive component to this. If you want to play along on your phone, I think it's gonna be pretty fun. You can connect to this wireless network here. It works pretty great over 3G, 4G, LTE, but the instruments will load a little bit faster if you are connected to the internet. Okay, while we're waiting for this to get set up, let me give you a little bit of background. My name again is Ross Brackett. I moved to Portland about 8 months ago. I have a television program on the public access station called Karaoke Research Council. It's a avant-garde music and technology and comedy program. And this is sort of the main software that I use. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
You want like
Nah, I think I've got it from here. Thank you. Ooh, whoa. Okay. That I use here. So let's see. Slides.google. Dot. No. Okay. Will you type, please? Slides.google.com.
oh wait, you know what? Can you type without looking at the keyboard?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, try again.
Okay.
And just like in continue, you can read like your password is going to be like really complicated.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens here. Oh. Did I do it right? Okay. My account got hacked and now my password is really long. Okay. So, oh, look at that. It's my presentation. All right. Let's present. Haha. All right. So, Singalong.js. This is a kind of an idea that I came up with. I was at the Tulalip Casino outside of Everett, Washington, a few years back, and I was in a room full of slot machines that were all emitting the same tone at the same time. They're all going sort of ooh, and I thought to myself, oh, computers are, it may be hard to sync them up in a lot of different ways, but they are all in tune with each other, more or less. So I use that as sort of the inspiration for creating some virtual instruments for your phone that you can play with other people. So let's talk about it. The problem is playing music is hard, so most people don't do it. Most people don't identify as a musician, don't think of themselves as being able to play a musical instrument. But being able to play music is great. It's a joyful act. There's a lot of research that's gone into brain benefits of being able to play music and collaborating with other people. And as a society, we don't really have a tradition like a singing tradition where people go to bars and everybody knows the songs that they sing together. But we do have karaoke. That's sort of the closest that we have to a technology that encourages people to use the instrument of their voice. Karaoke Research Council is devoted to what happens next for karaoke, and I'm offering some interesting takes on that. Okay, so just to give sort of a demo of this, if you want to go to this URL on your phone, there's certainly no requirement to do so. This is the easiest, least participatory version of anything that I'm going to show you tonight, but essentially this page, if you go to this page, there's 3 instruments on this page. The first is Wave Rider, and that's an instrument that I'll demonstrate really quickly here on my phone that looks at the phone's position in 3D space and how you're moving it to create tones. So this is the bass tone, second tone in a chord, third tone, and the 4th tone in a chord. Or you can play it like this to play a chord. And then there's a bunch of different instruments. Oops, we have our first participant here. Feel free to crank up your volume. And let's see if we can create some sort of E-drone here where we're all creating music in this key, E minor. Oh, okay, this is great. Okay, keep going, keep playing. All right, I'm loving this. Okay. So I tuned my guitar before I came here. All right, keep going. All right, this is awesome. I love this. Okay. So I'm also going to play this tone. And the harder you wave, the more noise should come out. And depending on how you position in space, you should make different tones. And there should be different instruments you can choose. Human voice, an organ, etc. Okay. There's another tool here too, finger strummer. If your phone's having trouble, you can use finger strummer, which is basically you just swipe across the screen to make the tone. You can do this for 1 minute. Also trying to get everybody loose. Trying to get everybody loose, not feeling self-conscious about playing music. Not just weird Meetup. Alright. Love it. I love it. So, non-musicians. You are musicians now. You have indeed just jammed out for the first time in your life. Depending, of course, on your definition of what music is. Alright. So this E minor drone is great. But what about playing songs, normal songs, with chord changes? I decided to take on the possibly stupid, labor-intensive task of solving this problem as closely as I could. Just sort of give you a perspective on the background of some of the technology used in this. In 2011, Occupy Wall Street in New York, there was a ban on using megaphones, so people would get around it using a technique that's been around for a while called the human microphone, where one person who is the designated speaker will, there's an initialization protocol I won't get into, and then they shout out something like, hegemony is bad, and then everyone that hears them around that says, hegemony is bad, and then it sort of radiates out through the audience. And at a hackathon in 2011, there was a UK team who created an app called the Inhuman Microphone. That the idea was one person would speak into their phone, the person who was the locutor, and then 6 seconds later, it would go beep, and then hypothetically everyone's phone would say exactly what they had just said into their phone. There was a demo that I've seen on Vimeo that had some problems. One, it was not loud enough, and two, the sync was really, really, really bad. It was more of a testing 1, 2, 3. Wait 6 seconds. Beep. 2, 3. 2, 3. 2, 3. It was more like that. But this underlying idea of can we make devices make the same or similar noise at the same time is cool. So let's look at the synchronization issues that are raised by this app, the Inhuman Microphone. So the first is lack of shared hardware clock between devices. My phone doesn't know to the millisecond what time it is on your phone. The second being that mobile devices have wildly different audio card latencies. Android tends to be in the 200, 300 millisecond, at least in the browser, in Chrome browser, tends to have 200 to 300 millisecond latency in general, whereas I found iPhones, iPads tend to have under 100 millisecond latency. And third is the requirement that if phones aren't, if the device emitting a noise isn't synchronized to around less than 10 milliseconds, then it really starts to get muddled really fast. Okay, so let's tackle these issues one at a time. The first issue is lack of shared hardware clock between devices. So there's no, I'm not sure why I put that in there. Let's start with the phone company. The phone company does not provide, it provides you some time on your phone, but it's not millisecond accurate. It can be up to a minute off. Your phone has a GPS device that has precise time, but generally that isn't revealed to, it's definitely not revealed to the browser, and I'm not sure how much it's revealed to the operating system. And then there's this problem too, where if you get two devices that are perfectly synchronized, they will drift apart over time, pretty significantly, pretty quickly. They can drift apart in their timing. So the solution is there's an implementation of NTP, the Network Time Protocol, or something similar to it that runs in your browser over Socket.io. I took that and fixed some bugs and modified it so that it's a little bit less bandwidth intensive. And that's sort of the backbone for getting, at least making it so that my phone can hopefully to about between, depending on the scenario, to be between 1 and 30 milliseconds, know exactly what time it is on the server. So we can at least get everyone's phone knowing what time every other phone thinks it is. It's participating. The second issue is wildly different audio card latencies. So my solution to this was sort of to do it the hard way. Your phone, when it visits a website, many phones and many browsers, when you visit a website, will reveal in the user agent string the manufacturer and the model number of your phone. So this software uses that to, when a phone connects, it looks at a database that I've created that's currently very small, but I'm hoping to grow, of manufacturers and model numbers with what it knows as that phone's latency. And then it uses a fuzzy sorting library called sortZZY to say, okay, you've got an LG ABTN, and I know about an LG ABTZ and an LG ABTA, so I'm going to take those two values and split the difference, and then hope that that audio card latency value is close. And so far, it's worked pretty well. And then, so given that we know what time it is on the server, and given that we know what time, how long it takes audio from the moment that the phone thinks, I should emit audio now, to that sound hitting your ears, we can try our best to make sounds emerge out of multiple devices at the same time. As for the third problem of sync sounds must start with, in less than 10 milliseconds apart to be coherent, this project sort of sidesteps that by trying to do music instead. We're not trying to play the same exact sound at the exact same time. We're not trying to play speech. We're trying to play musical tones that are complementary. In what you would call in music a chord. So different applications, you could use this for concerts, you could use this for installations, and you could use this for caroling. Caroling is what we will delve into in just one moment, because the sample app that I've written was written last month for Christmas caroling season. So, all right, so the app knows, my server knows the song's chord names and timings. It has socket NTP, my mod to that to get over network latency issues. And then we have this fuzzy logic database. So the way that the phone is actually going to create tones is there's a music theory library called, the Spanish word teoria, meaning theory, Spanish.js, which is awesome, and I highly recommend it. And then also the Fluid R3 sound font is a great list of different virtual instruments that can easily be converted to WAV files and put into a project like this. So, okay, let's do a real demo. Let's see what we can get. Let's see what we can get out of here. So I'm going to open this bit.do/godrest. Let's see if I can create a new tab here and load that up. Okay. Okay. So what this is the song God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, a public domain song, looping infinitely. It's looking at list of the number of seconds that the song exists, and then it just repeats it every however many seconds. So the idea here is that hopefully, once we get going, all of our devices will be putting out the same tones at the same time. And if you were sufficiently loosened up by the exercise that we did at the beginning of this event, you'll feel so inspired that you're going to try to sing along with me to do this song here. So let's see what happens. Oh. All right, awesome. I think we're finally getting it. All right, we're going to jump in here on one of the more obscure verses. This is like that fourth verse, so it gets a little bit weird here. The song is pretty old. Okay, so let's try it. Now to the Lord sing praises, all you within this place, and with true love and brotherhood each other now embrace. This holy tide of Christmas all other doth displace. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. And that's it. We'll play a resolving chord here. All right. Awesome. All right, everybody give yourselves a round of applause. That's awesome. I appreciate everyone's bravery. And then it'll just loop over again here. Oh man, there's some phones making noises I ain't never heard this project make. All right. Whoa, all right, I'm loving this. I don't even feel like proceeding exactly yet. I'm liking this. I think we're all creating a musical composition together right now. I think I have a shaker. All right, I like this. I'm not ready to get up yet. I like this. Remember Christ our Savior was born on Christmas Day to save us all from Satan's power when we were gone astray. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. All right, awesome. Loving it. Good job again, everybody. All right. I appreciate how game you all are for this. And it's all right if you keep serenading me in the background while I talk. If you want to, don't feel. The talk's almost over. Okay. So now that we've got the gist of it, let us briefly delve into some ideas I have for the future of this project. Currently, the project uses Socket.io. I love it. It's simple. WebRTC seems like the embodiment of those who do not understand UDP are destined to re-implement it poorly, but it seems to be pretty popular right now, so maybe we should switch to that instead, just to try to get even closer accuracy. Okay, the sync box. The sync box is this idea that I have, which would essentially be a cardboard box with audio out and in from a laptop. But the idea is that if you have a that as a reference to be able to get millisecond or near millisecond accuracy for any arbitrary device. So the idea is you take an arbitrary mobile device, put in a URL, it would connect in, and then the server would take over making it emit tones. So you would have the computer emit a tone, or you'd have a cell phone with a known latency emit a tone, and then you would tell the unknown mobile device to emit a similar tone at what it thinks is exactly 1 second later. You could then have a third computer that's listening to those two tones and saying, okay, this should, from the moment the first tone was emitted, 1 second later, the second tone should be emitted. And then looking at how much longer after that the tone is actually emitted, and then using that to basically figure out what a given model's number, phone model number's latency is down to the millisecond. And then once we have that, we can add to the database. The more precise the database is, the better this can be used in situations where you can't individually calibrate each phone. And then finally, and I think this is the last, is LagWiki, which would be just sort of a place where you could put these latencies. So that any project could later say, okay, this LG phone running this version of